So two of the most important factors which you need to consider if you are thinking about doing a PhD is the time commitment and the financial aspect of doing this degree. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the financial considerations which you need to take into account if you are thinking about applying for a PhD. And I'll be using my own personal experience having gone through this process very recently. My name is Pasan Vidurana. I've just completed my PhD through Imperial College London, and I'm also a surgical trainee in cardiothoracic surgery working within the NHS. So irrespective of which field you are in, whether it might be medicine, engineering or something else that is completely different, doing a PhD can be a big decision. First of all, it can take 3 to 5 years of your life, and therefore you need to make sure that it is the right decision before you embark on this journey. Now, doing a PhD comes with lots of benefits, but it's also important that you understand the challenges which comes with it as well. Some of the things which you need to think about is finding the right university, finding an appropriate supervisor, and also finding a project which aligns with your career and with your passion. And then also comes the practical side of things. How are you going to finance your project? How are you going to finance your tuition fee? And how are you going to look after yourself from a financial side of things during these 3 to 5 years of your life? So one of the main cost implications which I'm going to talk about is the university fee. Now, if you are a student from the UK who is going to be paying the home tuition fee, then you could be looking to spend around 6,000 to 8,000 pounds per year. Now, this could be more or this could be less depending on the location and on the university and of course the course as well. On the other hand of the spectrum, if you are an international student who is studying in the UK, the tuition fee can range from 25,000 to 40,000 pounds per year. And again, this could be more or less depending on several other factors such as the university and your course. Now, especially if you have to pay the home tuition fee, you might think it's actually not a big amount, because if you do think about it, it's not impossible to find this tuition fee by working part-time or by even funding it yourself through your own savings or through other means. Now, if you're an international student, this might be a bit different because 30 to 40k is a huge amount of money for most people, and therefore you need to make sure that this is something that you can manage. And just to remind you, it's not 35,000 to 45,000 for the whole course, it's 30 to 40,000 for 1 year, and therefore you'd be looking to spend 3 to 4 times this amount for the entire duration of your degree. So therefore, the tuition fee is one of the first things which you need to consider from a financial perspective when you are thinking about doing a PhD. Now, this brings me to my next point, which is also something you need to think about really carefully, and that is going to be your project fee. And this can vary considerably depending on your discipline, whether you are studying within medicine, whether it is in engineering or in psychology, and also the nature of your project which you are looking to do. Now, as an example, if you are thinking about doing a project within the medical field, and let's say it involves testing patients, you could be thinking about doing a blood test, or you could be thinking about doing a scan such as MRI scan or CT scan for each patient. Now, a project like this, especially if it involves many people, is going to cost you thousands and thousands of pounds, if not more than 100,000, and depending on the nature of the study, and especially if it's a multi-center study, it can even cost in excess of £1 million. So that can be a considerable amount of money which you really need to think about and factor into the equation or when you design your project proposal. Now, on the other side of things, some other projects are not going to cost you that much amount of money. Now, if you think about some of the other projects you can do, for example, let's say you are giving out a questionnaire for 200 to 300 different people and you base your PhD on this project, that is not going to cost the same amount of money, and that project fee might even be negligible. And same goes for a project which you are doing, let's say using data analysis, using statistics based on the data that has already been collected. The fee for that project is probably not going to be very high as well. And equally, if you are conducting other experiments or if you are using animal experiments, you might have to hire different equipment for your projects. These will have their own associated expenses as well. So as you can see, the cost of your actual project will greatly depend on the nature of what you are going to be doing. And therefore, if you are self-funding your PhD and if you are paying all the money of the PhD by yourself, you need to consider the design of your project to make sure that any cost implications are within your means. And this is something that you might be able to do after discussing with your university discussion and after discussing with your supervisor and getting input from senior colleagues who has gone through the same process before you. And last but not least, the next thing which you need to think about is your salary or your stipend. Now, spending 3 to 5 years of your life on a PhD and just dedicating your time for your education can be a good thing, but if you do have other commitments like a family to support, rent to pay and bills to pay, then you will need a regular monthly income to make sure that you can sustain your current lifestyle. And this is when you need to think about how are you going to get paid from a month-to-month basis and how are you going to make sure your day-to-day expenses are covered. Now, in order to approach this, if you are self-funding your PhD, there are various things you can do. For example, some universities might offer you the option to lecture students in their undergraduate years. Now, especially if you are in the second year of your PhD, your university might offer you the option of lecturing students, and that will come with a certain salary as well. In addition to this, if your university allows you to do that, you can also take part in part-time work in whichever the field you are comfortable in. Now, working on a full-time degree and working part-time or even full-time can be a very demanding task. So therefore, you need to make sure if you're thinking about working part-time while you're working on your PhD, that it is sustainable and you can give the PhD or you can give the degree the necessary time that it deserves. So therefore, these are some of the cost implications which you need to think about if you are thinking about doing a PhD in the future. Now, of course, there are different ways of making sure that you make this whole process a bit easier on yourself. And one of the approaches which you can take to make sure that the financial implication is not as much on yourself is to find a PhD which is funded or to find a PhD which is sponsored from a program. Now, it's not always straightforward to find a funded PhD because some of these funded programs will pay you a tuition fee, will pay you a project fee, and also will pay you a stipend on top of that as well. So it's a really sweet deal because then if you do get an offer like that, you don't have to think about any of those things which we talked about in the video. And for this reason, it is not always straightforward to get on one of these programs. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, do like this video and subscribe to this channel and share this video with your friends. In my next video, I'll be talking about some of the ways in which you can find funding for your PhD.